4 ways to start a new life and wake up to a new world. There are methods that work for sure. Watch this video to the end and you'll find out how to change your life if you couldn't do it before, or you really want to change something now. The first method is to break up. Yes. After breaking up, people's lives change a whole lot. If you don't want to change something on your own, then this change will be forced into your life, like shock therapy. Maybe you didn't want this breakup. You liked everything about it. And in general, you had a great life for 30 years. And everything was stable, clear and predictable. But now, like thunder, the breakup comes out of the blue. Sometimes this method can be very traumatic for the person, carrying with it a number of negative emotions, vivid experiences that not all people want to live through. But if you can be forced out of your everyday life, out of the rut of daily routine, only by such radical things, then breaking up is not a bad option for the world to shake you up a little bit. I even had a pattern that after each breakup, I grew in my career. And even on the income graph, you could catch where everything was stable, calm and predictable, and when there was a breakup. The second effective method to change your life is through a crisis. Crises can be caused by the economic situation in the region where you live, or it could be the midlife crisis. It could be a relationship crisis. Crises are a powerful incentive to start changing something, to start acting differently in some way. So any crisis can bring a wave of renewal, or at least a revision of life priorities. So if you want to renew your life, change your life, you can do that through a crisis. Whether you do it voluntarily or forcibly is up to you. But the fact is that the scheme works 100% of the time. Crises are not a bad thing. It's just that people treat crises as something bad. If you take away the interpretation that this is something incorrect, wrong, and destructive, you can find in it the opportunities it presents. Ask what resource it gives you, what you can do differently. Humans are creatures that can perfectly adapt to absolutely any conditions. Crises often stimulate you to change something and make the pattern of your life more workable and viable. The third method to start a new life is through voluntary change. Often a person is very inert. The way they are used to communicating with people is the way they communicate. The way they are used to work at some place is the way they work. But if you want to fundamentally change your life, you will need to introduce these changes regularly, and most importantly, voluntarily. Start something new willingly. Don't wait until everything comes crashing down on you, and you have to deal with your health, not just when you've already been diagnosed. And suddenly something is acutely ill, but deal with it regularly and voluntarily. This will lead to change. There will absolutely be something different from what you had before. Is it a crisis? Absolutely, yes. It's unusual, it's uncomfortable, it's time-consuming. Does it make a difference? Absolutely, yes. There's a great way to live this change. Where to start, how to go about this journey. I can walk you through the knowledge that I have, and I share it generously in a basic course called Witches. It's a course about world order, about the laws of the universe, the laws of generic systems, about how that affects your life. It also has practical exercises. You can do them, go through the practice of forgiveness, revisit the intrauterine period, revisit your views on your relationships with your loved ones, on how you created these events, on the consequences you caused. There you will also find out how to reveal your talents, how to manifest what is going on in your soul through body language and psychosomatics. If you want to voluntarily experience change in your life, to initiate change, then this course will absolutely help you do that. You can take a free week of this course to see if it's right for you or not, and do some of the practices for free. Familiarize yourself with the introductory lesson and start doing the homework. I'll leave the link below the video. You can sign up, join the free week, and in case you like it and find it relevant, you can get the full version of the course. If you willfully experience crises and transform yourself through them, does that mean the world will send you fewer involuntary crises? Yes, it does. If you evolve, change, add new things, learn, change your habits every day, it doesn't mean you are unpredictable. It means that you, having reached some level, do not stop there, but continue to learn something, to change something, to grow somewhere. The world then doesn't need to put you into severe crises when you need to experience it forcibly. You will still change, but instead you will change under stress, in harsh situations, when you will have less resources and less time for it. When you change yourself and do it voluntarily and regularly, then you can choose the form through which you live it out. How many times a year do you have to live through change? That depends on you. It could be that you've just lived through a big radical change. A change of residence, a change of profession, maybe a change of marital status. Anything. And just now emerging from those changes and settling into that level of life, and that level of reality that you're living in now. It may take time for you to get comfortable with this level, to build up the skill. You are there as long as you have that liveliness and interest. But as soon as you realize that you've lost interest in your work, or lost interest in that activity, or you're generally bored, when you realize that you're starting to lose that, then it's definitely time to start the process of change. Watch how much change your psyche has time to digest. Maybe you have time to change and implement new things, or launch new projects every month. Please do. If the capacity of your psyche is sufficient, then have as much fun as you want. Or maybe you haven't changed anything global in the last 15 years. In this case, take a closer look to see if it's time. The fourth method of starting a new life is to move. When a person changes their home, they, by moving from an apartment to a new apartment, or from an apartment to a house, or from a house to another house, by moving from one apartment to another, you are literally moving into a new life. Even if the neighborhood remains the same, but the apartment is different in area, in layout, in volume, or in general you have moved to a larger house, or a smaller one, but it's still a house, then the very place you live in, or where you moved to, will define your lifestyle, as strange as that may sound. It would seem it's just a different space, but it makes the brain work in a different way altogether. What do you do when you feel like the resources aren't there, but the needs are? The needs of a new living space, you think. There's a recipe. It's called, I'm looking for new opportunities and options. Maybe you can move to a neighboring area, and the apartment rent there will be the same price, but the square footage is larger. Maybe there really isn't enough current resources for you to upgrade to a more comfortable living space. Then it's worth thinking about what you could do at your current place of employment. Perform new functions so you could get a pay raise. Either way, there are always options. There are no such magic recipes for, I don't want to change my job. I don't want to change my salary. How do I move from a single bedroom to a 3-bedroom apartment? Either way, something will have to move. Something will have to be transformed. That way your life and living changes too. you become more comfortable. You can improve your quality of life in multiples if you change your living conditions in a literal sense. I also have this example I really want to share regarding my family. For a long time, me and my parents were living in a small, 2-room apartment. Throughout my childhood, I heard from my parents that they didn't like to have guests over, that the home was, after all, a place of rest. I've lived my whole life with the belief that my parents weren't hospitable. Recently, a couple months ago, my parents moved into a larger house. That was 2 months ago. During those 2 months, they had invited all sorts of people to visit. Relatives, aunts, cousins. Felt like every weekend there was someone new coming over. It turned out that the space itself is either welcoming or not. Indeed, there's not much room for guests in a small apartment. But when it's a large house, the people you thought all your life were not hospitable suddenly become hospitable. So moving into a new living space is really about moving into a new life. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Ring the bell so you don't miss reminders for my new videos. I highly recommend you watch a few episodes of my show Method, where I break down the live stories of real people without a script. The things that happen to them there are very impressive. Watch any of these episodes that you like by title or subject matter, and you'll 100% see your story there. Jump in and get familiar with the content.